Hi, this is Kathy with GrannyKSpicesOfLife.com. Today we're going to make cinnamon rolls. Everyone loves cinnamon rolls. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that our water is the right temperature. When we work with active yeast into a bread mixture, if the yeast gets too hot of water, it'll kill the activeness of the yeast and it won't bloom and won't make the bread rise. If it's too cold, it won't rise because there isn't enough heat to activate the yeast. So it has to be between 110 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got 1 3/4 of a cup of water here, and as you can see, it's 125 degrees, so we're right on. I'm going to put the water in this bowl. I have 2/3 of a cup of sugar. I have 1/4 of a cup of oil, and I have 3 tablespoons of yeast. This is quick acting yeast. So we're going to stir this together, and then I'm going to mix it with the mixer to combine it well. This combination does make the yeast very active, and that's what's going to cause our cinnamon rolls to rise. So we'll combine this. We'll let it mix together for maybe 4 to 5 minutes. And once it's become active, we'll let it rest. And I've made some in this KitchenAid stand mixer for you to see. I prepared exactly the same combination of water, yeast, sugar, and oil, and as you can see, it's risen, it's become bloomed, and therefore now it's ready for the rest of the ingredients. So we're going to combine it with 2 whole eggs, and I've used large eggs here. Now I'm making a half a recipe today because it's a little easier for this presentation, but you can double it, you can even triple it if you'd like to. And this is a tablespoon of salt that we're going to add into here. And then we're going to add some flour. Now I've got 5½ cups of flour in here, but flour makes a difference what kind of wheat you're using. If the wheat is very wet and full of moisture, if it's very dry. So don't add the whole 5½ cups of flour all at once. Start out with some, combine it, and then we'll keep adding flour as it mixes. We want the dough to be very pliable and something that we can work with because we're going to make the cinnamon rolls. Actually today, because one of my daughters asked for some cinnamon knots, we're going to make a little variety of cinnamon pastries today. In fact, this bread dough can actually be used for bread as well. And just a little secret, I'm going to make myself a pizza for dinner, so I'm going to use a little bit of this dough for the pizza. Now, if you wanted a sweeter dough for the cinnamon rolls, you could add a little bit more sugar to your batter. That part is not going to be harmful. You don't want it to be out of balance. So when I tell you the amounts for the ingredients, you don't want to add anything more for the salt or the oil or the yeast. This recipe doesn't take too long to prepare and for the rolls to rise. We're going to let this combine just a little bit. Be careful. Remember, the flour goes poof. Oh, that was really cool. Okay. What we're going to do is transfer this now to our board. You can use either oil or flour to work on your board to roll out the dough. I don't know why it's not doing that. So today I'm going to use oil. because I think it works just a little bit easier with this recipe. This is just canola oil, and I'm not going to put too much on here, just a little bit. And then I'm going to make my board nice and slippery, because we're going to mix this just a little bit more today on the board. This is called kneading the bread, K-N-E-A-D. You want to combine it, and it needs to become pliable, so when you push your finger into the dough, it comes back. That means that the yeast has become very active and you've done everything correctly. If it doesn't, then probably you need to mix it a little bit longer. Or maybe the yeast was too cold or too hot. Now in my family, we love cinnamon rolls. We like them for a snack, not just for breakfast. But you can see I've got the dough here, and when I push on it, it pops back up. I hope you can see that okay. So what we're going to do is, now because I told you already that I'm going to make a little pizza, I want to save some dough. I don't want to make it into something sweet. So the rest of this, we're going to put a little bit of flour on our rolling pin, and we'll start rolling this out. I have a wide variety of rolling pins here in my house, so I can use whichever kind I want. Most people prefer a specific type of rolling pin. I like this one. It's called a French rolling pin. That's because of the angles that it is, and it's easier to roll. But I also have many others that I like to use. Now what I did earlier was I took some, you can use either butter or margarine to put on your dough. I happen to use a combination of mixture of butter and margarine today. Margarine is not made with milk. I don't know if you folks know that. Margarine is made from an oil, vegetable oil. Butter is made from milk. Butter is actually the healthier of the two. But there are times when margarine is the better option to use. So now this takes a little bit of time to do this. You want to make sure that you've got it about a rectangle, maybe 14 inches. Remember, this is half the recipe, so a full recipe, you will get twice as many rolls or do whatever you choose to do with it when you make it into something. Now, because I've got this butter, I'm just going to spread it on my dough. I've been preheating my oven. I'm baking these today in a small convection oven. But they, once I cut them, they'll need to set for 10 minutes and rise a little bit before we can bake them. So I've already prepared some this morning so I can show you exactly what they look like. And I can assure you, as can my daughter that's here videoing for me, they do taste really good. Okay, then I've mixed together a cup of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon. Now I like to spread it all over the dough. You want to leave a little bit of room at the top over here because you want to seal the dough when we roll it up. And because we're going to make a few of the cinnamon knots today, I'm going to add a little bit more cinnamon to the part that I'm going to use for that. I think that when you make the knots, it's nice to have a little bit more cinnamon. Cinnamon comes from different areas of the world, and it comes from different trees, cinnamon trees. So you might have one that you prefer over another. Now I'm going to just cut these. The ones that have the most cinnamon are going to be in the knots. The others we're going to roll and make cinnamon rolls out of them. Now, because this is the cinnamon roll one, you want to roll it tightly, but you don't want it to be so tight that it doesn't have room for the dough to expand. You'll understand that if you've never made rolls before, or even if you've never eaten a cinnamon roll before. I think you're in for a nice treat. And then when you get to the end, you need to pinch this so it seals it together. You don't want it to come apart. Now, because I'm using my convection oven, I have to use the pan that came in my convection oven. I can't use a larger pan, so we're just going to cut these. I like to cut them pretty good size. And then we're going to put them in here now. If you put the rolls close together, they're going to rise up. They're going to be taller rolls. That means if you put them like this. If you put them like this and there's space between them, the rolls are going to spread out. I like them to be snuggled up together. I like that size of a roll. We're going to bake these for anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes in the convection oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Tuck that little guy in. Now these are just going to rest for about 10 minutes and rise. And while we're doing that, we're going to make these others into a little bit different style. I like to roll them over and then twist them. You can make them however you want. Actually, with any kind of bread dough, it's pretty easy and you don't have to worry as long as the yeast rises and as long as it's active. Yeast does expire, so when you buy yeast in the store, make sure you look for the expiration date. If it turns out that it's past the expiration date, it's not going to rise. You need to just discard it and buy fresh. We're going to put it here, and then it's going to have to also rise. And then we will bake them for a little less time because, as you can see, they're not as big. I hope you try this. I will post the recipe on GranniKSpicesOfLife.com in the recipes page, so you can get the recipe. And this video will be on Granny K Spices of Life YouTube, so you should be able to watch it, and if you have any questions. Now, like I said, I made some earlier today. These are the cinnamon rolls that I made this morning using exactly the same recipe, and as you can see, they're a nice size and they're really light and they're very delicious, and the cinnamon on the inside Melts right in your mouth. I like to add a little butter on it when they're warmed, but it's not necessary. And then I did make some of the knots, the twists like I've done here. And here we are, all ready for you. So please enjoy your time in the kitchen. I like to use my time in the kitchen to relax. There's not much you can do to hurt things that you make in the kitchen, trust me, I know. But I want you to enjoy it and have fun. And talk to me anytime you want to on GranniKspicesOfLife.com. And be sure and watch the YouTubes and subscribe, because the more you subscribe, the more I will be able to post videos for you on different items that you'd like to make. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed being with you. Mwah! Love and hugs. Bon appetit.